ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनम् कविभिरीडितम् कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीमदाततम् भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना. So, advice to the Brahmo devotees. Sri Ramakrishna. There are certain signs of God realization. Their discrimination, dispassion, compassion for living beings, serving holy men, loving their company, chanting the name and glories of God, telling the truth, and the like. When you see those signs of longing in an aspirant, you can rightly say that for him the vision of God is not far to seek. So, the various traits which becomes visible in an aspirant who is in search for the divine. So that's all being enunciated by Sri Ramakrishna. The first is the discrimination. That unless we have the faculty of discrimination, we can never proceed in our spiritual journey. That what is discrimination? As very nicely it has been spoken of in the Upanishad as the distinction between the Sreya and the Preya. Nitya, Anitya. That in this life we will find the so-called apparent pleasures of life. They are the prayers. We think them to be the be-all and end-all of life. But they are all Anitya. They can never give us the ultimate happiness, joy, bliss, because they're constantly flowing. As Gautam Buddha indicated in the very first Arya Satya, the Noble Truth, that there is dukkha, that there is dissatisfaction. And the cause he has spoken of in the second Arya Satya. What is that? The tanha, that everything is anitya, flowing. Nothing is permanent, but we're constantly trying to clutch, trying to grasp it. We can never grasp the thing which is flowing. So that's the cause of dukkha. These apparent pleasures which we find in all the things which are transient, that results in the suffering. A man of discrimination has that faculty to discriminate between that and that which is nitya, the spiritual dimension of our existence, the Brahma Satya, Jagad Mithya. Mithya means what? That which is not permanent. But Brahma, the spiritual dimension of existence, which is the Trikal Avadhita Satya, which was, which is, which will be in the eternal present without any transformation. That's the essence of our being. The first discrimination means that constantly in the life we are aware of the fact that all the things with which we are busy, we have to be engaged in all those things because the Vyavaharika Satya, at present, the truth, which is for the time being, in these present circumstances, I cannot simply forsake. So let them be there, but there should not be any sense of that attachment to them. As Sri Ramakrishna again and again is indicating in the gospel, that be like that maid servant who is working in his master's house, in her master's house. Her own house is in some village far away. She constantly goes on saying, "This is my house." She points to the master's child and says, "My child." But from the bottom of her heart, she knows that her house is far away in a distant village, in a remote village. Her children are there in the village. She is here just to earn her living. The master's son, the master's house is not her own. Though she says that, yes, this is my house, these are my children. But she, from the bottom of her heart, she knows that they're not her own. So we have to be engaged in the life, but mentally, attitudinally, that constant, that the discrimination, we should develop that detachment. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna, after discrimination, is speaking of dispassion. So the moment we can have developed the power of discrimination, we are bound to be dispassionate. And very interestingly, the moment we are dispassionate, we think that this attachment to the things of the world speaks of love. But that's not love, that is inordinate attachment. The real love dawns in our life when we develop that dispassion. Why? Because the ego factor has fallen off. All our attachment is actually hinged to that ego, the sense of this limited individuality, I. With the dispassion, when we develop dispassion, our attachment to the so-called inordinate pleasures of life, that starts falling off. The bind of the ego also starts to get loosened. All this attachment gets attenuated. The moment it happens, the moment the ego falls off, the more we find that love for all beings is welling up in our heart. As Sri Ramakrishna used to give that example, that ego is just like a pot. I immerse the pot in the ocean. A small quantity of the ocean water enters into the pot, and the ocean water in no way can now disturb the water inside the pot. Outside there may be waves, but that waves in no way affect the water inside the pot. What has happened? That this pot, which is like the ego, has segregated the consciousness into the Vyashti and the Samashti. The consciousness which actually is the consciousness behind the fundamental principle behind the entire creation. Somehow I develop a sense of me and thou. I get separated from it. And that's how the more the ego barrier is strong, the more we become selfish. The more we get encapsulated within this bounds of the ego. And all the so-called, the sufferings of the external world in no way affect us. But the more the ego falls off, we will find a wonderful thing, that despite of dispassion, my heart is welling the compassion is welling from the bottom of my heart. As in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 6th chapter, we studied that there is a wonderful sloka which speaks of the yogi among the yogis, the best among the yogis. Who is he? Atmopamyena sarvatra samang pashyati yo Arjuna. Sukhang va yadiva dukkham sa yogi paramah mata. Who is the best among the yogis? Atmopamyena sarvatra. In all, he sees his self in everyone else. So everyone else dukkha becomes his dukkha. Everyone else sukha, happiness, becomes his happiness, his joy. So that's the thing which has been spoken of here. See, and these are the signs of evolution in our spiritual journey. The discrimination, from that comes dispassion, from that develops the compassion for all living beings. And then when you have compassion, that compassion finds expression as altruism. It's just not a feeling. The moment you feel love, that love should find expression through service. So serving holy men, loving their company, chanting the name and glories of God, telling the truth and the like. So all this, the moment that why we speak lies, again, that ego is, when the ego is strong, that I somehow feel that such something, if I speak the truth, it is going to harm me. My ego is so strong that it forces me to forsake the truth. It happens in our life because of ego, we really lose strength. Our consciousness becomes crooked. When my ego falls off, the more and more I relate with the spiritual dimension of my existence, the more I become aware of the fact that nothing of this world can affect the real me. So what's the fear? I can face all the challenges of life. I need not have to compromise with the truth. That's what we find, that the Jesus is even ready to get crucified. All the prophets, we find there are so many prophets who have faced persecution. Why? Because they never have forsaken the truth. They were holding what they have realized, that they were speaking for the welfare of the humanity. And that speaks of the strength which comes from the spiritual realization. And that's why when you are not afraid of speaking the truth, that speaks of our establishment in the spiritual dimension of our existence. Otherwise, however we may try to lead a very pure, righteous life, we will find we won't have that sufficient strength to really face the challenges of life. Somehow or other, we will start compromising with the truth. Say this, we really can face the challenges and never compromise with the truth only when we are more attuned to the spiritual dimension of our existence. So you'll find that all the qualities which Sri Ramakrishna is speaking of, one by one evolves in our personality. They manifests in our personality. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying, that they are the signs of God realization that shows that you are progressing in the right path. So when you see those signs of longing in an aspirant, you can rightly say that for him, the vision of God is not far to seek. The state of a servant's house will tell you unmistakably whether his master has decided to visit it. First, the rubbish and jungle around the house are cleared up. Second, the soot and dirt are removed from the rooms. Third, the courtyard, floors, and other places are swept clean. Finally, the master himself sends various things to the house, such as a carpet, a hubble bubble for smoking, and the like. When you see these things arriving, you conclude that the master will very soon come. So what is speaking? The same thing. The moment I developed discrimination and dispassion, this discrimination and dispassion speaks of cleansing our psyche. The moment I develop the dispassion, all the impurities of my mind are getting cleansed. It is becoming more and more pure. And as it is becoming pure, then all the positive traits starts manifesting. That like the compassion for living beings, serving holy men, loving their company, chanting the name and glories of God, telling the truth. All these qualities which he has just spoken of. They're like the hubble bubble, the carpet. Once the place is clean, now the master sends all the things. He won't send the things till he is assured that the house is clean. He won't send all those things to be dumped in that dirty house. It has first to be cleansed, and then he starts sending them. So that's the idea behind this example, that first through discrimination and dispassion, when we have cleansed our mind, then the other divine traits, spiritual traits starts manifesting in our life. That's like the hubble bubble, just like the carpet, as if the master have started sending, and at last he himself will come. So yes, he will send his things, and then he arrives. That his arrival speaks of the ultimate spiritual realization. So all those positive traits first manifests, and then at last it ends in the realization of the spiritual dimension of our existence. We see the God as if face to face, and that's the idea which is spoken of by Sri Ramakrishna in this example which he's speaking of. Sir, should one first practice discrimination to attain self-control? A devotee asks now. Master, that is also a path. It is called the path of vichara, reasoning. But the inner organs are brought under control naturally through the path of devotion as well. It is rather easily accomplished that way. Sense pleasures appear more and more tasteless as love for God grows. Can carnal pleasure attract a grief-stricken man and woman the day the child has died? So that's the thing, Sri Ramakrishna is speaking. Very nice example he is giving here. So there are two ways he's speaking of. What's the two ways? It's just now, as we were speaking of, to constantly discriminate between the real and the unreal. From the words of Sri Ramakrishna, that's what the devotee felt. He's speaking of discrimination followed by dispassion, that followed by compassion for the living beings, that followed by the service. So he felt all those things were sequential. So naturally he asked Sri Ramakrishna that question. Is it that first we have to renounce, first we have to practice discrimination and attain this self-control, and then the other spiritual traits has to be cultured? So here Sri Ramakrishna is saying, yeah, that's true. That is also a path. But there is another way. That is the devotion. The devotion, when I am devoted to God, the more and more I develop love for the divine, the other love starts falling off. So this is the other way of bhakti. That as we discussed so many times, how that love helps, love of divine helps, that it creates a bypass in the mind. That there are so many desires in our mind, but all those desires, how they have developed? By our repeated pursuit, thinking that they are the be-all and end-all of my existence. I was in eternal chase after them, life after life. And this repeated pursuit, repeated endeavor has created as if a deep groove in our mind. So many deep grooves have been created. These innumerable paths has been created because of our eternal chase for the sensuous pleasures of life. And now I'm trying to develop devotion for God. It's a new endeavor. At the beginning, I may not feel love, but all the spiritual tradition speaks of repetition with resolution. Whether you like it or not, go on repeating your prayers, your mantras, again and again, day after day. What happens? We are resorting to the same neuroplasticity of the mind. By this repeated practice, a path will be created in our mind. And once the path is created, that's the nature, that we start liking the thing which we are doing once the groove is created. So once the groove is created, suddenly we will find that the devotion is welling up. Now, once this devotion develops, a wonderful thing happens. The other love, they cannot coexist with the love for the divine. Why? As we have discussed so many times, that all other inordinate loves which we have developed through the process of evolution for all the things of the world, they are dependent on something external. They're dependent on something which is apart from me, whether it's relation, whether it's wealth, whether it's name and fame. It's something which I do not have. I'm chasing after them. So as long as I'm chasing after them, constant that fear is there, that constant that concern is there, that I may not get it. I may miss it. And once we get it, again the same, the fear still continues. That yes, I have attained, but I may lose it. Whether it's relation, whether it's wealth, whether it's position in life, whether it's health. This constantly, all those chase is associated with fear, concerns, because they are all something external. Now, once I develop this love for the divine, just I think of the God and I find that devotion is welling up, love is welling up, a type of bliss ensues from it. Now I am free from all fear. Why? This is something which is intrinsic. The moment I think, I feel that bliss, I feel that love. Even if the world goes against me, they cannot take it away from me because it is something intrinsic. The moment I think, I feel that love. So I have developed love for something which no one can take away from me. It is something intrinsic. So as a result, what happens? The mind develops a natural tendency to pursue something which is always going to be with me, which I'm never going to lose. Nothing can take it away from me. As that song of Mirabai, which we repeat again and again, Kharche nahi koi, chor na leve, dina dina bharat sabayo. That the wealth which I have acquired, which I have gained, is something wonderful. What is that wealth? All other wealth can diminish us. The more I use my wealth, the wealth diminishes. But this is something, it never diminishes. The more I practice, the more the groove is deepened, the more intensity of love I feel. So it doesn't get expended. Kharche nahi. Chor, no one can take it away from me. Dina dina varata. The more I practice, the more it becomes intense. So as I have developed love for something which in no way is affected by the other external factors, so I have as if created a freeway in my mind. All other paths were as if like passing through the traffic. If there is a job, there is a what you say, there is a notice for a job, and there are 100 applicants, and only 10 persons they are going to take, the other 90 won't get it. So it is just like passing through a traffic. If you get the green signal, the other gets the red signal. But here I have developed a road which is no traffic, there is no cross section. My love for God in no way is affected by your love for God, because it's something intrinsic. That's why love of God is something universal. So I have created a bypass. There is no cross section there. There is no traffic there. So even in our day-to-day life, we find that if there is a freeway, why should I go through the traffic? A natural aversion for all those roads develop in our mind. We always tend to go through that freeway. So here also, once I develop that love for the divine, the other paths falls off naturally. You need not have to consciously, willfully, forcefully, with a resolution, have to get rid of them. The more our love for the divine develops, the more the other inordinate love for all the so-called sensate pleasures of life, which are impermanent, that starts falling off. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that there is also that the path of vichara, he is not denying it, that is a path. But there is other path, but the inner organs are brought under control naturally through the path of devotion as well. It is rather easily accomplished that way. Sense pleasures appear more and more tasteless as love for God grows. And then he's saying that wonderful, that carnal pleasures attract a grief-stricken man and woman the day the child has died, that this love for the child is so intense, and the suffering related to the loss of the child is so intense. The other things you need not have to forcefully think of. Naturally, they fall off, that no one can think of any other enjoyment. The day they have lost their child, the love for the child is so intense, the other things falls off naturally. There is no need to force them out. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. So that's the other way. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna will indicate the efficacy of the japa and the prayer. The devotee, how can I develop love for God? So that's what just now we were discussing. That's what Sri Ramakrishna will now instruct the devotee. That how can I develop? That you are saying that with the devotion of God, all other passions falls off. But how to develop that love for God? The master. Repeat his name, and sins will disappear. Thus you will destroy lust, anger, the desire for creature comforts, and so on. So that's the thing. Just the more we practice, the more the groove is created, the more the love for divine increases, the other things falls off naturally. So that's why it's saying, repeat his name. So resort to that neuroplasticity of the mind. Resort to that. And that way you will develop devotion, love for God. As in Chaitanya, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that's very nicely it's mentioned. Ei Horinam Nite Nite Bhakti Mukul Food Bechite. That go on, that you say that I don't have devotion. How to have devotion? Go on taking the Lord's name. The more you take the God's name, what will happen? That the bud of devotion is there in our heart. It is just like a bud. The more you resort to the repetition of the name, the more there's a chance that the bud will bloom into the flower of devotion. Ei Harinam Nite Nite Bhakti Mukul Food Bechite. It will bloom. So that's the thing Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. Repeat his name. And then as the love develops with the repetition, all the sins will disappear. Thus you will destroy lust, anger, the desire for creature comforts, and so on. Devotee, how can I take delight in God's name? Master, pray to God with a yearning heart that you may take delight in his name. He will certainly fulfill your heart's desire. So that's the thing. Go on praying, repeating his name, praying. Pray with yearning heart. And this yearning heart is important. Not only mere repetition. That repetition do create an indelible mark in our mind. But if that repetition is associated with yearning, that mark that which is created in the mind, it gets deeply grooved with almost a very little attempt. The more the yearning, the more the groove of your mind gets deepened, even with very less repetition, even without much repetition. If we really have a deep yearning, that creates an indelible mark in the mind. That yearning is very important. How deeply I am yearning for spiritual evolution. To give an example, that it's not that always that repetition is required. Anything which I am intensely desiring for, that creates an indelible mark in the mind without even any repetition. To give an example, that we in some other classes we have gave that example. Suppose I am driving, and it so happens that suddenly I find that most probably I am on the wrong way, and I see a truck is coming from front of me. I'm extremely scared now, that I'm almost sure that there is going to be a head-on collision. And at the last moment, I apply the brake, the truck also applies the brake, and just maybe there's a hairline split only is remaining when both the vehicles stops, and I'm saved. Nothing happens. This is only a singular occurrence which has happened. Throughout my life, even when at the old age, so many things I will find that I have forgotten. But I will find this is the thing I have never forgotten. Why? The fear of death, abhisneha, is so ingrained in our mind. At that time, the fear of death made our mind so focused that at that time, all the things got deeply embedded in the mind. All the details of the happenings that happened on that day. Not a single detail I will forget till the end of my life, because my mind was extremely focused. The fear of death made my mind extremely focused, and the indelible mark that created in my mind that never gets deleted. It's always there. It never gets erased. So that's why that yearning is very important. The more I have a sense of purpose, the more my mind gets focused, and then even without much practice, I develop the love for God, and it helps me to realize the divine in a much shorter period. That's why we find that even in the Yoga Sutra, that is mentioned that through all this practice, when I'm going to realize that there's a sutra for that. They say Tivra Sangveganam Asana. Sangvega, that if you have a tremendous yearning, then it is asana. It is just waiting for you. As Sri Ramakrishna says in the gospel again and again, that yearning is just like the red hue of the dawn. In the dawn, early in the morning, the sun is not visible. Yet the sun has not yet came out of the horizon. It's not visible. But you see the red hue, the sky, that red hue is visible. You know for certain that it's just a matter of few moments, the sun will be visible. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that the yearning is just like that red hue of the dawn. What it indicates? That the realization is asana, is very near. And that's what Master is indicating. Pray to God with a yearning heart that you may take delight in His name. He will certainly fulfill your heart's desire. So saying, the Master sang a song in his sweet voice, pleading with the Divine Mother to show her grace. Her grace to the suffering humanity. What the song is? O Mother, I have no one else to blame. Alas, I sink in the well these very hands have dug. So just see, there's again that idea that we have, dug the well. Our hands have dug the well in which I am sinking. What is this well? That by thinking the sense that this world to be the be-all and end-all of our existence. For lives together, I was in pursuit of all the so-called worldly pursuits, wealth, name, fame, pleasures, sunset pleasures. All these things were my only pursuit. And with constant repetition, what I was doing, I was creating a path in my mind, as if digging a well. And once you have created the path in the mind, now you get stuck there. So that's the idea. You sink in the well which you have dug with your own hands. Who else to be blamed? And then the next line makes it more clear. With the 6 passions for my spade, I dug a pit in the sacred land of earth. This mind is the sacred land. This same mind can take us to the spiritual realization. So that's why it's a sacred thing. It's a pure thing. In that, the 6 passions, because of the delusion, because of my short-sightedness, because of the delusion, this karma, from the karma comes krodha, moha, lobha, moha, matsarya. This is all the 6 passions. From where it is coming? From the karma, from the desire, from where the desire comes. Because of ego. The moment I forget my spiritual dimension of my existence, I start thinking myself as a limited being. The ego dawns. And the moment the ego dawns, the karma comes. From the karma, all other passions come. And they are the, the motivation factor behind this repeated endeavor for all the censored pursuits of our life. So we are going on digging as if the well in the sacred space of our mind. The mind where instead of my digging well for the sensate pleasures of life, if I would have practiced devotion, the same mind would have enabled me to come out instead of getting engrossed in this world, to come out of this uh, worldly bondage, from this cocoon, and would have, just like a butterfly, I would have attained that freedom. I would have got released from this cocoon and would have attained freedom. But I have just done the opposite thing. I have just uh, encapsulated myself. And instead of coming out of the cocoon, I die there inside that cocoon. And that's the idea that Sri Ramakrishna is trying to relate through these songs. With the 6 passions for my spade, I dug a pit in the sacred land of earth. And now the dark water of death gushes forth. How can I save myself, O my Redeemer? Surely I have been my own enemy. How can I now ward off this dark water of death? Behold, the waters rise to my chest. How can I save myself? O Mother, save me. Thou art my only refuge. So this is the, at last, line speaks of how can I save myself? At last, when I realize that the divine alone is my refuge, and now I am constantly praying to be always associated with the divine, knowing very well that's the only thing which can save me, which can help me to come out from the deep waters of the well which I myself have dug. So I start taking refuge. This taking refuge speaks of creating this bypass. By the name of the God, you develop the love for the divine, and this love helps you to naturally forsake all other inordinate attachments. It happens naturally, spontaneously, without trying to force them out. The love for God enables me to get rid of all other inordinate attachments. So that's how taking the refuge is the last thing in this song which they are mentioning. With thy protecting glance, take me across to the other shore of the world. So that's how the God's grace works. That once I take refuge, and then the same mind in which I have dug the well, and I was as if being drowned there, the same mind now helps me to come out of it and attain that liberation. And that's the grace of the divine which has been spoken of in this wonderful song. So the master sings again another song with the same idea. What he's saying, what a delirious, the master sang again, what a delirious fever is this that I suffer from, O Mother. Thy grace is my only cure. False pride is the fever that racks my wasted form. I and mine are my cry. You see, that ego that speaks of that I and mine. From that, what happens? Oh, what a wicked delusion. My quenchless thirst for wealth and friends is never ceasing. When that ego is there, all this chase for the sunset world in the name of this wealth, friends, they never cease. We are constantly chasing after them, thinking them to be the be all and end all of our existence. How then shall I sustain my life? Talk about things unreal. This is my wretched delirium, and I indulge in it always, O giver of all good fortune. My eyes in seeming sleep are closed. So the seeming sleep is what? This ignorance, ajnana. Because of ignorance, I got deluded, and the consciousness, which is this, what you say, that beyond the association of this body-mind complex, it is ever free, it is eternal. That starts feeling that it has to attain eternity, it has to attain fulfillment. So that speaks of the delusion, that speaks of the closing of the eyes. My eyes is seeming sleep are closed. My stomach is filled with the vile worms of cruelty. Alas, wander about, absorbed in unmeaning deeds. Even for thy holy name, I have no taste. O Mother, I doubt that I shall ever be cured of this malady. So the same idea that because of delusion, that we got so much encapsulated with our own ego, that we have started creating a drench in which we are drowning, we are getting drowned. So we are we ourselves are the cause of our own uh, uh, degeneration, degradation. And the only way out is the grace of the divine, and that is attained by taking refuge in the divine, that sharanagati, that which makes us think of the divine and divine alone. And that's the way, and that's the only way to come out of this quagmire of worldly existence. That's what Sri Ramakrishna so nicely, with the help of his words, with the help of these songs, he's trying to relate to the devotee. Then the master said, even for thy holy name, I have no test. A typhoid patient has very little chance of recovery if he loses all taste for food, but his life need not be despaired despaired of if he enjoys food even a little. That is why one should cultivate a taste for God's name. Any name will do. So here, the wonderful Catholicity of Sri Ramakrishna's way of his spiritual life, that we find that he's here very open about it. There's as many ways, so many paths. That all the faiths can lead to the same goal, the spiritual realization. That what he's saying, any name will do, Durga, Krishna, or Shiva. Even if through the chanting of the name, one's attachment to God grows day by day. Then if through chanting of the names, they say the same things which we were discussing, that how to develop devotion? By chanting. When by chanting, we develop the devotion. At present, we may not have love, but with the resolution, we have to go on taking the name of the Lord, the love will develop. Then if through the chanting of the name, one's attachment to God grows day by day, and joy fills the soul, one has nothing to fear. So once you have developed that attachment, just as we give that example, that a drug addict knows very well that what is harming him, what is resulting in his this physical and mental total degradation. He's losing his health, he's losing his mind. Why? Because of the addiction. He knows, but he cannot leave it. Though constantly he's taking resolution, I have to get rid of it, he cannot. So why? That attachment is such a thing. In order to attachment is such a thing that no resolution works then. So here, that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that once you develop love for God, now the entire world may come and say that what you're doing is useless, you're mad, it's of no use. And even your rational mind may say that, oh, yes, most probably these are all useless. This is not going to lead me anywhere. I may stop my practice for 2-3 days. But this love, just like the drug addict, here also this love will force you again to take the name of God, because you have already developed that love, that attachment has developed. So in spite of yourself, you will be progressing spiritually. So a drug addict, in spite of himself, degrades. And a devotee, in spite of his resolution, moves out, spirally moves outwards. Instead of getting spirally falling downwards, he is moving upwards, at last resulting in his release from this worldly bondage. So that's the idea which has been spoken of here, that that somehow if that love develops, that the attachment to the God grows day by day, and the joy fills your soul, one has nothing to fear. As in the Bhagavad Gita, that's why Bhagavan is assuring. What? By saying that swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Practice a little. That will save you from the great danger, mahato bhayat. Why? If you practice a little, that once that love develops, once that devotion develops, the devotion itself will now, in spite of you, that prakritir avasho vashat, in Bhagavad Gita, they say that even in spite of that your resolution, that, oh, I won't practice anymore, you will be forced, because you have developed that love, and that will take you to that ultimate spiritual liberation. So that's, one has nothing to fear. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. The same thing. There's this mahato bhayat, you get rid from this great fear. This swalpam apasya dharmasya trayate. Yeah, you are emancipated from this great fear of this worldly existence. So that's what is being indicated by Sri Ramakrishna. One has nothing to fear. The delirium will certainly disappear. The grace of God will certainly descend. So this is the assurance that Sri Ramakrishna is giving us. So now that we may find that he's saying all these instructions to the world, the people who are householders. So naturally they may feel that to develop love for God, staying in the family, how is it possible? Constantly I am with the sensate pleasures of life. And now he is instructing us to develop love for God. How is it possible? So now Sri Ramakrishna will say that circumstance is not the important thing. The longing, wherever you may be, if you can develop longing, that's important. Where you are, that doesn't matter. Where your mind is, that's more important. So now he's speaking of a parable of two friends. What he's saying, as is a man's feeling of love, so is his gain. Jamon bhav, tamon lav. So what is your bhav? What is your feeling? Accordingly, you gain. It's not the circumstances in which you are placed. In spite of all unfavorable circumstances, I can develop a tremendous longing that itself speaks of my spiritual evolution, in spite of the fact that I am not having the favorable circumstances. Now what's the parable Sri Ramakrishna is relating to the devotees? Once two friends were going along the street when they saw some people listening to a reading of the Bhagavata. Come, friend, said the one to the other. Let us hear the sacred book. So saying, he went in and sat down. The second man peeped in and went away. He entered a house of ill fame, but very soon he felt disgusted with the place. Shame on me, he said to himself. My friend has been listening to the sacred word of Hari, and see where I am. But the friend who had been listening to the Bhagavata also became disgusted. What a fool I am, he said. I have been listening to this fellow's blah blah, and my friend is having a grand time. In course of time, they both died. The messenger of death came for the soul of the one who had listened to the Bhagavata and dragged it off to hell. The messenger of God came for the soul of the one who had been to the house of prostitution and led it up to heaven. Verily, the Lord looks into a man's heart and does not judge him by what he does or where he lives. Krishna accepts the devotee's inner feeling of love. So that's the assurance Sri Ramakrishna is giving to the householder devotees, that wherever you may be, you need not repent that I have no favorable circumstances. If the circumstance has forced you to live in world, need not repent for that. Still you can develop that longing for the God. And then you become like a lotus leaf. Though you are in water, the water cannot touch you. The water cannot drench you. So the longing for God is the only thing which can help us to develop that real dispassion. That the one who forcefully tries to renounce the so-called attachments of these worldly attachments, he's always afraid. He will be always thinking of the place, a circumstance where all those worldly things need not disturb him. But one who has developed love for God, he is not bothered about the circumstances. Wherever he may be placed in, he is quiet, at peace with himself. Sri Ramakrishna, that's why gives that example in some other context, that in scripture they speak of two types of nyaya. One is called marjara nyaya, and another is called markat nyaya. It's very nice. The markat nyaya, what is the markat? Is a monkey. The young one of the monkey, you will find, when the mother is jumping from tree to tree, the young one, the baby monkey, holds onto the mother, clasps onto the mother. By chance, if it loses its hold, the young one will fall, and it may be fatal fall. It may die also. But a cat, Marjar is a cat. The small one, what it does, it only cries. When it is not comfortable, it is crying. It doesn't move by itself. It even doesn't hold to its mother by itself. Mother, listening to the cry of the baby, comes and she decides where to place the child. She will hold the child on her neck and just carry it. With the mouth, it will carry it and just place it wherever she feels is safe for the child, comfortable for the small one. So now this the scripture says that the monkey, as it is itself clasping to the mother, it may fall. But as this baby cat, the mother is holding it, there is no chance of falling. So this is the difference between a man who through vichara is trying to develop renunciation. He is like that markata, clasping, that is trying, giving his full effort to get rid of all faults. But here he has resigned to the divine, have developed devotion, and his God is taking care of him. For him, there is no chance of fall. So that's the thing we find in this story also, that the circumstances is not the deciding factor. A man who, because of his wrong decision, went to the wrong place, but is repenting and is thinking of the divine, we find he is carried to the heaven. And the so-called the one who is listening to the Bhagavata, but his mind is seeking the sensate pleasures of life, he is being carried to the hell. So where you are is not important. That's why even in Bhagavad Gita, they speak of mithyachara. What is mithyachara? This humbugism, that I'm forcing something out, trying to force out something from my mind, but I find I cannot. My mind is constantly dwelling in that. That is mithyachara. It will never lead us to any spiritual enlightenment. So that's why even in Bhagavad Gita, they say that go on doing your actions, that there is no need to run away from the world. Be in the world, but keep your mind in God. So that's the thing, and try to develop dispassion, that through that devotion to the God, try to develop dispassion, and always feel the Lord has placed me here. He knows best why he has placed me here. Just like that Marjara, the cat, it never tries by itself. The God has kept me. I am here. He only knows best where to carry me and place me. I just call on the mother. The small cat just calls on the mother. That's it. That's the only thing it does. The mother decides. So that's the idea which Sri Ramakrishna is trying to highlight through this wonderful parable. In the Kartabhaja sect, the teacher, while giving initiation, says to the disciple, now everything depends on your mind. So this, in English, sometimes we lose the beauty of what has been said. You know, Sri Ramakrishna is actually saying in a couplet, where there is a, there's a play of words. What he's saying, that the couplet goes like this: Ami dilam tore montor, ekhon montor. Ami dilam tore montor. Montor means, now the Guru is saying to the disciple that I have given you the mantra. In colloquial Bengali, the mantra is called mantar. That sometimes you'll find that in colloquial language, the words we cannot pronounce properly, it gets distorted. So that's the Guru is saying to the disciple, I have given you the mantar. That means the mantra. Akhon montor. I have given you what I have to do, I have done. I've given you the mantra. But now the mind is yours. Whether you are we are going to keep your mind always in this mantra, or you forget your mantra and again just get distracted with the world. That is not up to you. So ami dilam tore montor, ekhon montor. So that's being translated here. So the beauty is lost, that he's playing that pun with the words wonderfully. So here in English, what the translation is just a free translation. That beauty is gone that way. Now everything depends on your mind. The teacher says what? While giving initiation, says to the disciple that now everything, that while giving, so everything is in your mind. According to this sect, he who has the right mind finds the right way and also achieves the right end. It was through the power of his mind that Hanuman leapt over the sea. I am the servant of Rama. I have repeated the holy name of Rama. Is there anything impossible for me? That was Hanuman's faith. So we'll find that these stories are wonderful. That Hanumana, as a child, was extremely mischievous. And as a child, he was not even aware of his own strength. He had immense strength. Just thinking the sun to be just a bread, he was just going to grab it. So that's why the rishis gave him a very soft curse, that till you find a purpose in life, you will forget about your strength. And that's why when the mission came that someone has to jump over the ocean, Hanuman was not willing at the beginning. But let's just see that when he was made aware of the purpose, his purpose of life is to serve his masters. This is the Lord, Rama. And then that as per the curse, now he will forget that what he has forgotten, his own strength, that will manifest now. So now the strength manifests. The Hanuman, he himself at the beginning was doubting. And then we find once he becomes aware of his mission in life, now he finds back his strength. So that's the thing, that if the moment we know that after all, the mission in life is to be again one with the divine from where we came, to complete this cycle, this mission, this resolution, the moment we become aware of that, at present we find that it is almost impossible to jump over this ocean of worldliness. So many desires I have, they are as if binding me, just like so many chains, not only one chain, thousands of chains. How can I get rid of that? So that's the same way that Hanuman was feeling, I cannot leap over this ocean. We also feel the same way. But once I know it's the divine, which is the essence of my being, because of delusion, I'm going through this cycle of birth and death. And at last, again that purpose comes. I have to be one with the divine. Then that immense strength which is already within us, that gets awakened. That superhuman strength which is already hidden, is hidden in each and every soul, that gets awakened. So we need not then at all worry that how to surmount this as if unsurmountable chains of desires, as if it is unsurmountable. Tremendous strength comes, and that helps us to jump over this so-called worldly existence. That's what even in the prayer, Khandana, we every day sing. That wonderful line is there. Shampada tava sripada bhava goshpada varijata. That once I make your feet, sripada, the lotus feet, as the treasure, sampada, as my treasure of my heart, then what happens? Bhava goshpada varijata. Very nice, very poetic way Swamiji is relating this idea. That this world, which appears to be an ocean, it then becomes just like a goshpada. When in a rainy season, the cow is just treading over the land, is just walking. These hoof marks are created. And how much water can be in a hoof mark? In its hoof mark? Just a little, even a frog can jump over it. So Swamiji is saying that once that I develop that, I take refuge in you, your feet, that I make your feet as the treasure of my heart, then this big, huge ocean of worldliness becomes just like the hoof mark of a cow. Goshpada bhava goshpada variyata. It is nothing then. So that immense strength we develop from that faith. And that's the thing Sri Ramakrishna is saying. So it all depends on your mind. The same mind, which is at present totally polluted, is tarnished by all the worldly desires. Once I understand that this cannot give me the ultimate satisfaction in life, the only way the fulfillment can come is to again complete the circle, to go back to the divine from where I came. Then this mind, all the so-called the clouds which was obscuring my strength, which I already have. It is something inherent in me. It is within me. That manifests. And that gives me the strength to surmount all the so-called obstacles and proceed in the spiritual giant, in a spiritual path, in a much fast, in an accelerated pace, in a much accelerated pace. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. So this discussion will continue. It's very nice. We will find that this Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is a very wonderful scripture where you find nothing which is secondary in our spiritual journey has been taken into consideration. Only the primary focus, the realization of the divine, For that, what is required? He's giving so much stress to it that all the other secondary details, the do's and don'ts, and which creates so much of tension and turmoil in this world in the name of religion. So you find those things are not taken into consideration at all. That you are, God is, and our eternal relationship is the only thing that for which this human birth is, go for it. And this entire, from morning till night, that's what he's talking, nothing else. He never asks, how are you? How is your children? Not a single sentence you will find in the gospel. He's asking all those things. Anyone is coming, just there are instances that 18 hours he has been speaking throughout the day, non-stop. And this theme is always that pitch to that high tune of spiritual realization. So with this, we stop our discussion today. I thank you all. We'll continue with the next section again in the next class.